Thanks for staying up later. Tim Curry is with us. He is Cardinal Richelieu in the latest Three Musketeers, which has just opened. How many Three Musketeers films have there been?
I think there have been at least 4. I believe there was a silent film version. There was an Errol Flynn version. There was the Dick Lester version, which I think was the early 70s. And so pretty much every 20 years it gets a new version.
From the trailers I've seen, it's a beautifully photographed film, but that's all I can tell. As we tape, I haven't seen it start to finish. What's going to put a different twist on this? Or is it such a classic story that you can do it once a generation?
I think certainly the latter. I mean, I think it's the adventure story that stood the test of time, and it's very beautifully shot on locations, and it's a kind of rollicking popcorn movie. I think. I mean, somebody called it "Young Guns Go to Versailles."
What was the most enjoyable aspect of it for you? The chance to ham it up is something that actors always like.
Yes, I mean, I tried not to be caught with large pieces of scenery between my teeth. But yeah, I mean, it's the man you love to hate, but also the actual ruler of France. So it's nice to play a villain with a sort of Jesuitical brain.
Milady de Winter.
Your Eminence.
Your beauty would make even the most chaste of men think of impurity.
I don't believe you suffer the burden of chastity.
Perhaps you're right.
I was making an observation, not an offer.
A word of caution, my lady. A snap of my fingers, and you could be back on the block where I found you.
And with a flick of my wrist, I could change your religion.
Did you go back and look at the other Three Musketeers films?
Actually, well, I saw the Richard Lester one when it came out. Whenever it was, 72, I think it was, something like that. And in fact, I tried to rent the Errol Flynn version, and they put the wrong cassette in the box.
And what'd you get?
I don't remember, actually. But I took it as a sign. I thought, no, they obviously don't want me to see this, so...
You think it would have been daunting? I mean, in a sense, Errol Flynn was born to play these sort of swashbuckling characters.
Well, I mean, in some ways, not any more than Kiefer Sutherland was. I mean, I think it's just reinterpreted for another kind of generation. And actually, I think that, that probably all of these versions of the Musketeers reflect the attitudes of their times. So I've done a part in London that was played by Olivier, and now I'm not daunted anymore. Somebody's got to play him, Might as well be me.
How did you feel you stacked up?
Very badly, as was rather coldly pointed out at the time.
In the reviews? Did they get to you?
I mean, I've had a pretty good relationship with the critics, thankfully. But there was a sort of period, this particular year at the National, which was not very successful. And in particular, a production of Threepenny Opera, where I played Macheath, which I'd always wanted to do, and was truly slaughtered for the first time in my life. And it was very difficult. I mean, it was actually, particularly at a place like the National, where if a production clearly doesn't work, they don't take it off. You play it for 6 months.
It's your punishment.
It's your punishment. What fresh hell is this? And that was very hard. So after that, I don't read notices in the theatre, because they can really affect the way you play it.
I was going over your resume, so to speak, and it's so diverse. Work in film, television, classical stage work, more mainstream stage productions. So now you've got this whole body of work into which Rocky Horror Picture Show falls somewhere. But I would imagine if we went back 8-10 years ago, this would be almost an annoying topic, because there was such a mania surrounding it that you would practically have to have gone out and scaled the Matterhorn to get noticed for anything else.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was the sub-editor's dream, Rocky Horror. So the first kind of round of publicity was, you know, fascinating. And then the second time that I was doing stuff, it was, you know, the man who did the Rocky Horror Show, which was an excuse to print another picture of you in fishnet stockings and high heels.
And we can't get enough of those.
Well, and by now that's sort of pretty much been exhausted, you know, except around Halloween. And
is Frank Enfurter still a popular Halloween getup?
Oh, I think so, yes. Well, you know, one of the things about Rocky is that it's become a sort of rite of passage, you know. It's along with hazing.
See, but for those uninitiated, I don't know if there still are, but there was a long stretch, years and years, when the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which might not have been a traditional box office smash, played every Friday and Saturday night at a given theater on college campuses around the country. Usually every college campus of any size had one theater that played it every Friday and Saturday night, and there were kids who had seen it literally hundreds of times. And it became a participatory thing where you'd go to this, and most of the people knew every line of dialogue. They'd respond to the characters. Many times they'd come dressed as the characters. If it was an old-time theater that had a stage in front of the screen, they'd run up and jump on the stage and start doing silhouette stuff up there. It was wild.
Well, it was pretty amazing. I mean, one of the things that actually was kind of triumphant about the film, in a sense, was that we were deliberately trying to break down that kind of what would be the fourth wall in the theater. I mean, we were actually trying to burst out through that screen, and it was very deliberate that I talked to the camera an awful lot. And in a curious kind of way, it actually worked. I mean, it was a film that opened up a kind of dialogue with an audience, and it happened quite spontaneously and sort of organically. It was very strange.
So you're the Transylvanian transvestite.
That's right.
And Susan Sarandon's in this film.
Look, I'm cold, I'm wet, and I'm just plain scared.
I'm here. There's nothing to worry about.
How'd you do, See, you've met my faithful handyman. He's just a little brought down because when you knocked, he thought you were the candy man. Don't get strung out by the way I look. Don't judge a book by its cover. I'm not much of a man by the light of day, but by night I'm one hell of a lover. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania.
What kind of box office did this actually do, apart from its cult standing? Was it a hit in any sense?
When it came out, it was a terrible flop. In fact, I went to a screening with the director when the finished cut was played for the executives at Fox, and there, at the end of the screening, there was this plangent silence that just sat like porridge. And then Jim Sharman, who directed the film, ran out of the room, and whichever executive had been assigned to say, "This is a really wonderful film, we love it, it's really great, it's going to do swell, so glad you came." And basically they just they barely bothered to release it, and it went straight down the tubes, and actually it was rescued by somebody, an executive whose name I now forget, who was given it as this kind of turkey to see what he could do with it. And he sort of invented the midnight circuit, actually. He put it on at midnight at the Waverly Cinema in New York. And it found an audience and has taken something like $150 million.
How often, if ever, did you see it in a theater?
I saw it about twice. I was actually in New York. I just moved to New York and was starting to make records when the phenomenon began to happen. And a friend of mine called me up and said, "You realize, you know, they're all going at midnight and da-da-da-da." So we tried to get tickets and it was sold out. And I called up and said, you know, this is Tim Curry. Do you think you could sort of squeeze us in somewhere? And this voice said, "You're the third Tim Curry today." And then, so we showed up anyway, and they gave us seats. There were about 4 of us. And it was very strange because people sort of started coming up and touching me and kind of, it was really peculiar. And about 20 minutes in, this woman, the manageress, actually turned us out and said, "You're imposter, you're starting a riot, it's a nightmare," and...
disrupting the otherwise staid atmosphere that prevailed at this show.
Absolutely. So that was the first time I saw it, and I saw it at the Tiffany Theater in Los Angeles because when I was about to start touring with my band, I took them to see it. But they came out in a state of shock.
Do you find that you're recognized by little kids now because of Home Alone 2?
Well, I've actually done quite a few things that kids see. I mean, you know, every little girl has a videotape of Annie, and but Home Alone 2 certainly, you know, it's good to be in a hit. Because you start to sort of become part of the consciousness in some peculiar way.
Now, Annie was not a hit. One of the greatest stage hits, no. But a movie bomb.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was...
would seem to have the ingredients. John Huston directs.
Certainly. I mean, I think that probably in the end, it was perceived as overproduced. And actually, it's sort of interesting, really, because I was terribly aware when I was making it. I was thrilled to be making it, because as a child, the one thing that I always wanted to see were the huge Hollywood musicals. South Pacific, you know, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and that was what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew that was something that I really wanted to do. So Annie was really, in a sense, the last, it was the sort of dinosaur. It was the last of those great big, huge Hollywood musicals. And there were so many kind of tie-ins with it. There was a very strong hype with it. There were plates and there were toys and there were... And I think it was perceived in the media as just a sort of giant hype, and they went for it. It's now become pretty much standard practice. But it was pretty new then, that kind of, you know, mega marketing. So I think it suffered a lot from that.
Pretty good video sales and rentals, though, now? Is that?
Oh, I think it's made lots and lots of money, yes.
You intersected with Huston toward the end of his life.
Yes. And
maybe well past the peak of his powers. Is that fair to say?
I don't know that he was actually terribly interested in Annie. I mean, I think if you look at his career, he often made movies because he thought that they would make money and because he needed money. I mean, he was a great gambler, and I mean, I think he was sort of fascinated, in a sense, doing it because it was set in the 30s, and of course he'd been there. But, you know, the oxygen was ever present, and half the time he seemed to be on the next set reading scripts, as far as I could see, and watching it on television. That's very good. Just bring it out a little closer. Well, I had when I met him, I mean, I was sort of offered the part before I met him, but when we started shooting in New York, he was staying on Central Park South somewhere, and he asked me to come over and talk to him, and he said, "Have you had any thoughts about how you're going to play it, Tim?" I said, well, I'd been watching the Stagehand, because I was doing Amadeus at the time. You had a kind of particular sort of physical tick. He said, show me. So I kind of did it for him. He said, oh, yes, that's wonderful. That's great. Yes, that's very good. Very shifty.
Can you tell in the middle of something for which you had high hopes that it's going down the drain? I mean, Clue is another one you were in, had a big-time cast, and again, almost had a built-in audience because all of us as kids had played Clue.
Yes.
We wanted to see it. Everybody knew Annie was a great stage play. We wanted to see it. So it looks like almost can't miss, and both of them missed.
Yeah, well, you know, I think that there were a couple of things about Clue. Paramount were very, very high on it when we were shooting it, and they, you know, were crazy for the dailies, and so pleased were they that they rush released it, which meant that Johnny Lynn, who directed it, whose first film it was, really had no chance to test it in front of an audience. He really had to sort of pretty much throw it together and get it out there, and I think it suffered from that a lot. It's a very successful video, and in fact, I was at a dinner table in New York, and they had my host had two daughters at Princeton, and they said that it had become a sort of cult thing at Princeton, and that whole lines of dialogue from the movie had gone into the language, and I thought, no, please, no. But who knows?
We're back with Tim Curry. Many people might not be aware of your recording career, but if they're fans of Saturday Night Live, they might have been able to infer it from your Mick Jagger bit with Piscopo.
Yes. Well, I did. It was supposed to be Mick Jagger's first TV special, and it was really rather well written. The guests were Joe Piscopo as Frank Sinatra, who sang, "Hey, you, off my cloud. Hey, you, take a hike." And I sang "Strangers in the Night." And Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop were a guest.
Mr. Jagger? Mick?
And it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a very good time at Saturday Night Live then.
How big a slice of your career are the recordings?
Well, it was something that, I mean, I'd always wanted to make records, and really when I started, I didn't know really whether I wanted to be a singer or an actor. And my first job was in Hair, which kind of postponed the decision, really. And it was very clear that the people who went from Hair into recording contracts actually had a pretty miserable time, because really in the late 60s, people had very little control over what they were allowed to record. So I really just decided to wait until I had, you know, enough power to choose my own material, which sort of really happened because of Rocky Horror. And so I made it the first record in Toronto and New York. And I pretty much stopped acting for about 3 years because I wanted people to kind of understand that I was serious about it, particularly radio. And I toured the States a couple of times and Europe. And
is there a style we can identify here? Type of material you usually did?
Well, the first record was very eclectic and sold 25,000 copies. Cost a great deal of money.
But you maintained your artistic integrity.
Well, I did, absolutely. Absolutely. The second record, I actually started writing and wrote a great deal of it, and the third record. And I did them both with Michael Kamen, who is extremely successful writing scores for movies now. And in fact, he's doing the score for Musketeers. They were, the songs were a tad literate for the market, really. The records did very well in college towns.
Run out and see Tim Curry, Kiefer Sutherland, among others, in The Three Musketeers, as they say at a theater near you. It was great to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Tim Curry, folks. See you later.